The hall was bigger than she had imagined. From the outside, it looked calm and quiet, almost ordinary. But inside, the space opened up like a wide breath. Tall walls reached upward, holding soft light that came through the high glass ceiling. The sound of footsteps echoed gently across the polished floor. Rows of chairs filled the room, already crowded with people talking in low voices, laughing. And waiting. At the center of it all stood the piano. It was black and shiny, resting under the lights like it belonged there, strong, confident, important. To many people, it was just an instrument. To her, it felt like something much bigger. She stood near the back of the hall, hands folded tightly in front of her. Her jacket sleeves felt a little too long, brushing her fingers when she moved. She had worn the same outfit she always practiced in. It made her feel safe, familiar. Around her, adults and older students spoke easily. Some looked comfortable, like they had done this many times before. Others checked their phones or talked about music they loved. No one noticed her at first. That was normal. She was used to that. This was an open session. Anyone could come forward and play. There were no rules about age or skill. Still, there were rules people followed without saying them out loud. Rules about who looked like they belonged. She did not look like them. She had practiced this moment in her mind for weeks. Late nights at home. Early mornings before school. Her fingers knew the keys better than they knew anything else. When the world felt too loud or confusing, the piano made sense. It listened. It waited, but standing here was different. The noise of the hall pressed against her chest. Every laugh felt louder. Every whisper felt closer. Her heart beat fast, then faster. She tried to slow her breathing the way she always did. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. A performer finished playing. The audience clapped politely. Someone else stood and walked confidently toward the piano. The seat was adjusted. Notes filled the room again, smooth, controlled, safe. She watched. Carefully. Her turn would come only if she made it come. She looked down at her hands. They were small, but strong. They had practiced every day, even when she was tired. Even when she wanted to quit. Even when no one asked her to keep going, a memory came back to her. Sitting alone in a quiet room. The sound of keys under her fingers. The feeling that, for a few minutes, everything was okay. That feeling was why she was here. The music ended. More applause. The players stood and smiled, clearly pleased. People nodded in approval. There was a pause. No one moved. Her heart jumped. This was it. Or it could be. She swallowed and took one small step forward. Then another. Each step felt heavy, like the floor was trying to pull her back. Some heads turned. A few people noticed her now. Their eyes moved from her face to her clothes, then back again. A quiet sound passed through the crowd. Not loud enough to be rude. Just enough to be heard. She felt her cheeks warm. Someone near the front leaned toward another person and smiled. Someone else raised their eyebrows. A soft laugh escaped, quickly covered by a cough. She stopped walking. For a moment, she thought about turning around. No one had called her name. No one had invited her. She could go back to her seat. She could disappear into the crowd and no one would remember she had stood up at all. That thought felt safe, but it also felt heavy. She looked at the piano again. It waited. It did not laugh. It did not judge. It had been waiting for her longer than anyone in this room. So she kept walking. The whispers followed her. She heard someone say she was too young. Someone else wondered if she even knew how to play. None of the words were shouted, but they still reached her ears. Each step took effort. When she reached the piano, she stood there for a second, unsure of what to do with her hands. The bench looked wide. Too wide. She climbed onto it carefully, feet not fully touching the floor. A few people chuckled softly. Her chest tightened. She adjusted herself, trying to sit the way she had practiced. Straight back. Shoulders relaxed. She placed her hands in her lap. Just like her teacher had shown her long ago, the hall felt suddenly very quiet, not the peaceful kind of quiet. The waiting kind. She could feel eyes on her from every direction. She imagined what they were thinking. That she would play something simple. that she would make mistakes, that she would prove them right. Her fingers trembled. For a second, her mind went blank. The notes she had practiced slipped away like they were hiding from her fear. She stared at the keys, black-white, so familiar. So frightening, she took a breath. Another memory came to her. Sitting alone, struggling with the same part again and again, feeling frustrated, ready to give up, then playing it one more time, slowly, carefully, until it worked. She reminded herself of that moment. This was just another moment. She lifted her hands and placed them on the keys. A soft sound escaped the piano. Just one note. It was not perfect. It was a little shaky. A few people exchanged looks. She almost pulled her hands back, but then she played the next note. And the next. The melody began quietly, like a thought not yet spoken out loud. Her fingers still shook, but they moved forward anyway. Each note helped the next one come out. The piano responded, steady and patient. The laughter faded. Some people still looked unsure. A few glanced away, convinced they already knew how this would end. But others stayed focused, curious now. She did not look at the audience. She could not. If she did, she knew she would stop. Instead, she focused on the keys, on the sound, on the feeling of the music moving through her hands. Her breathing slowed. The room around her seemed to fade. The lights softened. The noise disappeared. There was only the piano and the story it was telling. The melody grew stronger. Her fingers remembered what her mind had almost forgotten, then moved with more confidence now, pressing the keys with purpose. The music was still simple, but it was honest. It did not rush. It did not try to impress. It just spoke. A few people leaned forward without realizing it. Someone in the back stopped whispering. A phone was lowered. She felt it happen before she fully understood it. The room was changing, but doubt still lived inside her. What if she made a mistake? What if the next part fell apart? What if they started laughing again? Her heart beat faster as she approached a difficult section. This part had always been tricky. At home, she sometimes had to stop and start over. Her hands hesitated. The music slowed. She pressed the next key. It rang out. Clear. She pressed another, still steady. A breath she didn't know she was holding escaped her lips. She kept going. The piano filled the hall now, reaching corners the whispers never could. The sound carried emotion she didn't have words for. It carried long hours alone, quiet hope, small victories no one had seen. She was no longer thinking about the audience. She was thinking about why she loved this. The melody rose, then softened again, like a voice telling a secret. It was not loud. It did not demand attention. It simply asked to be heard. The hall listened, but inside her, the fear had not fully gone away. It waited, watching closely, ready to return if she slipped. She reached the final notes of the first section. This was where she had planned to pause, just for a moment. Before continuing. Her fingers hovered above the keys. The sound faded into silence. The pause stretched. In that quiet space, everything balanced on a single breath. She sat there, unsure if she should continue or stop. Unsure if she had done enough? Unsure if she was brave enough to keep going. Somewhere in the hall, someone shifted in their seat. Her hands shook again. She closed her eyes. As part one ends, she takes one more breath, knowing that whatever happens next will change more than just the music. She opened her eyes. For a moment, the world felt far away. The hall, the people, the lights, all of it seemed soft and distant. The pause had felt long, like time itself had slowed down. But in truth, it was only a heartbeat. Still, that heartbeat carried everything inside it. Fear, hope, choice. Her fingers hovered above the keys. She could still stop. She could still stand up, say nothing, and walk away. No one would stop her. Some might even feel relieved. The thought crossed her mind, quick and quiet, but something else followed it. A memory. Late nights when the house was silent. The piano lid open, her feet barely touching the floor, playing the same notes again and again, even when they sounded wrong. Even when her hands hurt. Even when no one was listening. Those moments had mattered. Slowly, She lowered her fingers back onto the keys. The next note came out soft and clear. It did not shake. It did not hide. It simply existed. Then another note followed. And another. The music returned, not rushed, not forced. It flowed as if it had been waiting for her to trust it. Again, something shifted in the room. The quiet was no longer uncomfortable. It was full. The kind of quiet that leans in. The kind that listens, she played on, moving into the next part of the piece. This section carried more feeling. It moved slower, deeper. The notes stayed longer in the air, like they wanted to be remembered. They touched the walls, the ceiling, the people sitting in their chairs. Her shoulders dropped. Her back relaxed. Her hands no longer shook. She was not thinking about who was watching anymore. She was not wondering who believed in her or who didn't. She was thinking about the music itself. About how it rose and fell like breathing. About how it felt to let sound say what words never could. In the audience, faces began to change. A person near the front leaned forward, elbows resting on their knees, eyes fixed on the piano. Someone a few rows back leaned into their chair, eyes closing without realizing it. A few people who had smiled earlier now looked thoughtful, almost surprised that they was still paying attention. The girl did not see any of this. She felt it instead. The piano responded to her touch the same way it always had, steady, honest, warm. It did not care how old she was. It did not care what she wore or how she looked. It did not remember the laughter from earlier. It only answered her hands. Her confidence grew with each measure. The melody expanded, filling the hall with something gentle but strong, something fragile but brave. It was not perfect. One note came slightly earlier than planned. Another landed softer than she expected, but the feeling never broke, and that feeling mattered more than perfection ever could. She remembered the nights she had practiced while fighting sleep, the mornings she played before anyone else woke up, the times she wondered if she was foolish for caring so much about something so quiet. She remembered sitting in rooms where louder voices filled the space while hers stayed inside. All of that lived inside the music now. It came out in the way she held the notes, in the way she let the silence speak, in the way she stayed with the melody instead of rushing away from it. The piece moved toward its final section. This was her favorite part. The part that always felt like home. The part that never failed to make her feel honest. Her fingers moved with ease now. Not fast, not slow, just sure. The hall felt different, smaller, closer, as if the space between her and the audience had slowly disappeared without anyone noticing. Someone near the aisle wiped at their eyes, then quickly stopped, hoping no one saw. Another person smiled, not politely, not carefully, but with the kind of smile that comes when something unexpected reaches deep inside. The girl felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was not pride. It was not relief. It was something quieter than both. Belonging. The final notes approached. She slowed down just a little, letting each sound fade fully before moving on. She wanted to respect the moment. She wanted to hold it, not rush past it. The piano answered her care with clear, ringing tones that floated through the hall. Then came the final chord. She pressed the keys and held them. Just long enough. The sound filled the space, rich and full, before slowly dissolving into the air. Silence returned, but it was not the same silence as before. There were no whispers now. No soft laughter. No shifting in seats. No quiet doubts hanging in the air. Just stillness. She lifted her hands and placed them gently in her lap. Her heart beat fast again, but it felt lighter this time, like it was no longer trying to protect itself. She waited for a moment. Nothing happened. Then someone began to clap. Just one pair of hands, slow, careful, almost unsure. Another joined in, then another. The sound grew, spreading across the hall like a wave rolling forward. Applause filled the space, louder and louder, until it wrapped around her completely. She looked up. People were standing, not everyone, but many. Faces she had never seen before looked back at her with open expressions. Some smiled softly. Some nodded as if to say they understood. Some clapped with real strength, like they wanted her to feel it in her bones. Her breath caught in her throat. She stood slowly, unsure of what she was supposed to do next. She bowed a little, awkward and shy. The same way she had practiced alone in her room. The applause did not stop. For a moment the feeling overwhelmed her. Not fear this time. Something heavier. The weight of being seen after expecting to be invisible. When the clapping finally softened, she stepped away from the piano. Her legs felt weak as she walked toward the side of the hall. People moved out of her way. Without being asked, a few spoke quietly as she passed. Simple words. Gentle words. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just honest. She nodded each time, not trusting her voice yet. She returned to her seat near the back of the hall. Her hands rested on her knees, still warm from the keys. Her breathing slowed. Her heart found its rhythm again. Around her, the room slowly returned to motion. Someone else stepped forward to play. Chairs shifted. Soft conversations returned, but something had changed. Not only inside her, the people who had laughed earlier sat differently now. Some looked away when their eyes met hers. Others glanced over with a new kind of respect. No one whispered. She did not feel angry. She did not feel proud in a sharp way. She felt calm as the next performer played. She listened, but her thoughts drifted back to the moment when she almost stood up and left. When fear had pressed hard against her chest and asked her to run. She realized how close she had been to never finishing. That thought stayed with her when the session finally ended and people began to leave. She stood and walked toward the exit. The lights no longer felt harsh. The hall no longer felt too big. Near the door, someone stopped her, just a quiet voice. A simple compliment. Not about skill, not about talent. About feeling. She nodded, sighed thank you, and moved on. Outside, the air was cool against her face. The noise of the hall faded behind her as the door closed. She stood there for a moment, breathing it in. Nothing in her life had suddenly changed. She still had doubts. She still had fears. She still had so much to learn, but something inside her had shifted. She knew now that she could sit down in a room full of doubt and choose to stay. She began to walk away. Her steps light. Ahead of her, there would be more rooms. More eyes. More moments where she would feel small again, but she would remember this one, the day she touched the piano. And instead of leaving, she played, and that was enough.